Hey guys, Cuervo here. Just doing a quick history of my knife collection and how they've evolved with me. James tagged me in his last history video, so I'd like to share my experience and my stories with you. So thank you for joining me, and let's get it going. So these are the 6 knives that I brought with me that I interchange with a lot for my daily carry. And just to have a little honorable mention, I have this Kershaw pocket knife. It's very reminiscent to the one I've lost a long time ago when I was maybe 19, 20 something. It was a Smith & Wesson. It had a little seatbelt cutter in this section, glass breaker. I would carry it with me everywhere when I had it, and you know I always thought it was cool because it had multi functions on it, and I was stupidly I was always like, oh, I can't wait to be in that dumb situation where I need to use or break a glass or something like that. But thankfully I never was. But sadly I lost that knife. I can't remember what it was called, but this is the closest that I found to it. And yeah, so let's start with the first knife. Okay, so I'll first start off with the Mora Companion. This one has a special place with me because it was the first knife that James gifted to me after I think we filmed One Stick Fire with it, or as a review for the Mora Companion. And it was the first time that I've witnessed a knife doing more than just chopping vegetables and boxes and opening packages and things like that. And so I learned that it's more than just a tool. It's a survival tool. It's a how do you say, like, creativity tool for carving and things like that. So it has a multi-usage. And I remember when he gave me this, we nailed it to a tree stump outside of his house, and he filed this part for me. You can really tell, but it has a little 90-degree spine right there. There's little dings right here from the flint and steels, trying to make fires with it. And yeah, so the Mora Companion is a very good, it's a good knife to begin with. And so when a lot of people ask me about it, I always recommend the Mora Companion. It's not a very cool knife, I know, it's not very tactical looking. It has a lot of history, of course, with the puukkos style and the Scandi. I always kind of like this little divot right here, the drop. And I've learned how to hone it and sharpen it. And yeah, so that's why I always keep the Mora Companion by my side. Cool. Okay, so the second knife is the Mora Black. So the Mora Black holds a very special place again. This knife was one of the second knife that I remember when we reviewed it for the channel, and we catched and cooked a squirrel from the park. And it was the very first video that we made that included the Cuervo Negro music. I remember one of the parts where James stabs the knife into a tree trunk and then puts the squirrel right next to it. I always thought that was cool and dramatic, and when the music kind of ties into it. And I remember really loving this knife and loving how the knife provided a fire and provided food, provided a lot of things. And so I was like, I need to get my hands on one of these. And yeah, and I think it was the first knife that has the 90-degree spine on it. So you can tell there's a lot of flint and steels on it too. I remember practicing in my room with it too, and almost causing a big fire in my room because I'm messing around with fire. And yeah, so I love this kind of like gun handle on it and the rubber. And yeah, so that's Mora Black. Okay, so the third knife is the Two Arrows Canyon. This is the first knife that I've witnessed that was a handcrafted knife. And it has so much character to it. I love the coating right here and the Scandi. Wasn't really a big fan of how short it was, but I still love this kind of like spear tip to it. I know it's not a spear, but it's like a sword kind of thing. I love the micarta handles on it and this kind of belly on it, just right here. This knife fit like a glove when I first held onto it, and I just added my own characters to it, my own character customization to it. But it was my first interaction with a knife that somebody handmade, and I thought it was amazing. I always kind of pictured this knife to be held by Charles Smith in Red Dead Redemption. I always kind of felt like, yeah, this is the kind of knife he would have. Though I think he carries like a tomahawk or something. But it's very, for lack of a better word, it's very frontier looking, very rustic, very spiritual almost too. I also love it because I love carving with it too. And it's not very good with prepping like food and stuff because it just kind of squashes everything, but it's still good for what it is out there in the woods. So this is my Woodsman knife. I always like to carry this when we go to New Mexico. Yeah. Also love the sheath. I love this white stitching on it. Yeah. Okay, so there's one that's missing. It was the American knife company, the Woodsman. It's very similar to this one. It just had a bigger, I think it was a 5-inch blade, and it had a black handle on it. I think it was part of my EDC, maybe like the second EDC video I made. And the reason I didn't carry that one in because I had to sell it. I was kind of short on money, but it was still a good knife. It was cool. It had I remember processing a lot of deli meats, like big chunks of chicken and pork with it. It was a good knife. So, all right. So the fourth knife is the PKS puukkos. So this one is very reminiscent to the Canyon, but to me it was an evolution from it. It's a longer blade, wood handles, and a pommel to it. I love this pommel too. I haven't used it as often as I should, but it's a cool addition to it. This is one of my favorite knives. One of my personal, I mean, they're all my favorite knives, but this is one that I cherish a lot more. Just because I remember making a little bit more sanding to it. But yeah, the puukkos, as you can tell, I tend to go with a lot of Scandis. So, because I like a lot of carving, I like the thickness of the blades, and I like the teeth, the aggression on it, and the PKS puukkos just met all criterias. The only nitpick I have about is this kind of finger gap right here. I wish it would just go down there, but I get it. It's like safety reason maybe. But yeah, it's not your like a rookie knife, you would say, a more seasoned user. And yeah, so it's the PKS puukkos. All right, so for my fifth knife is the Green River Hunter, right? And so this knife was presented to me when James first got his custom made one, and I love this design on it. I love the thin point. I love the thinness of it. I love how slicey it is. The handles I'm not too big on, but just had to do a quick modification on it, sanding and conditioning a little bit. So for me, it represents a long history of usage from frontiersmen to cowboys and cavalrymen, and horsemen, and all these. I could just imagine them whittling a spoon or a cup or sharpening something to by the campfire, you know, having coffee with it, and it just, and also, you know, like fighting off native tribes and hostile soldiers and highwaymen and things like that. So yeah, it's a very thin blade too. I that's one thing that I had to kind of get over, because a lot of these blades are kind of thicker than this one. But I got used to how slicey and how it's almost like just gliding across whatever it cuts, and I love that. I love the Green River. And just to add to the character to it, I modded this sheath. I always kind of change it around, but this feather always changes. It's never the same. It's always feathers I find on the street or in the desert or in the woods or whatever. So I think it adds the character. It adds this jacket to the suit. So yeah, the Green River knife. Cool beans. Okay, so the last knife in my collection is this Junkyard Fox Snake Eater. So this is a special snake eater because it was a prototype, and as you can tell, it has no number stamps on it. It was the second one that Woody created. So yeah, it's the prototype knife, and it has a very unique shape to it. It's a little bit more, as you could say, like straight, and then the handle is a little bigger than the ones that are out now. So it's a unique snake eater amongst the many that are out there. And it's also, the snake eater is a very special knife because it's James's work. It's his manifestation into reality kind of thing, where it's his hard work and his ideas come to life. And I think it's a big evolution in the channel and also with him. And I remember when we were coming up with the name, I remember telling him that we name it Nahual, which is a shapeshifter in Mesoamerican mythology. And because it transforms from a Scandi to a flat grind, and so it's very shape-shifting abilities. So that's why I love the snake eater, because it has a very special place and also the channel. And just to mention quickly, my sheath that I made for it, it's a custom made. I added these rivets so the knife doesn't cut into the stitching. Also added this leather string to it, so when I want to do like a dangler with it, obviously it doesn't really need it because it's a big but yeah, it's a cool little sheath to go with the black handle and the knife. Alright guys, so that's my history collection, or sorry, my knife collection and my history with it. And if I had to choose one from all of them, I'm gonna take all of them. You know, I don't care. I'll over encumber myself. I'll get cut. I don't care. I'll just, you know, I'll inconvenience myself just for the pleasure of it. But seriously, in the serious note, if I had to choose one, I'm going with the puukkos, the PKS, just because it's had more history with me. It's been at my side a little longer than these have. It's helped me create leather sheaths with it. I've created leather sheaths with it, like this one, and yeah, it's just more versatile for me. I don't need a long blade. I don't need too many gimmicks to it. I've learned that from my experience with these. fellas. And yeah, so the PKS puukko is my go-to. So that's about it. Leave your comments and your suggestions. If you have any suggestions for me, I'd love to hear them. Be sure to follow me on El Cuervo Negro _ at Instagram, and James at Junkyard Fox Instagram. And that's about it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Much love and peace. And go outside and get your boots dirty.